Well, I'm really excited to be here in Niagara-on-the-Lake, Canada. We're 15 minutes away from Niagara Falls here with Dr. Irina Kossovskaia.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you for joining today and inviting us to your home here.
My pleasure.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to get your input on a lot of these topics that we've been discussing regarding cancer and natural medicine. But first of all, could you tell the viewers a little bit about your education and your history?
I'm actually a former eye surgeon. So my former education and practice in Russia for almost 20 years. Actually, exactly 20 years. And in 1997, I moved to the West. And in North America, I'm a doctor of natural medicine. So I am a holistic physician or enlightened physician, as they say now. You know, the transition from you're a doctor, then you're a quack, and then you're an enlightened physician.
Okay.
So I went through the entire evolution.
What was the moment? So you're a medical doctor from Russia. Yeah. What was the aha moment or your moment of enlightenment that made you decide that you needed to transition from the old school into this enlightenment?
I guess any enlightenment comes from most likely from personal tragedy. And when you meet a personal challenge, especially if it's a serious challenge, then you have to look outside the box. And that's what happened to me when my only son Dennis was diagnosed with Tourette syndrome at the age of 4. Actually, he was diagnosed at the age of 9 when it became pretty bad. So obviously I was facing his pretty bleak future and conventional medicine, and I had access to the best medical care I could possibly imagine at that time. And I couldn't find any answers, so I had to look outside the box, and I came across a very interesting technology, very exciting technology, holistic in nature. It's what's called scanner, and the device scanner was invented for Russian cosmonauts to support them while they're in space without the facilities, diagnostic facilities or treatment facilities. So basically this was a little device that at that time looked as a prototype of a Star Trek healing device from a Star Trek series that Dr. Bones used. So that was very fascinating to me. I started using it in my own practice as an ophthalmologist, as a conventional medical doctor, and saw pretty amazing, almost healing miracles, I would say. After that, of course, my colleagues in Scanner helped me with my son, and by the age of 15 or 16, he almost had no trace of Tourette's. And that's how we, I guess, all come to the field of natural medicine if we were shaped, if we were, you know, formed and molded into the conventional medical thinking. So you have to look outside the box, and unless you get a good kick, you won't do that.
Yeah. Now you say Scanner? Scanner
is actually an acronym, and it stands for Self-Controlled Energy Neuroadaptive Regulator. So it's SCENAR.
Okay.
Scanner is a technology that started in Russia in the end of 80s, let's say. And it went through several stages of evolution, and right now it evolved into a very fascinating technology which is called cosmetic. And it's not from the word cosmetology, it's the word from the word cosmos, actually.
Cosmos.
So cosmetic, it's still a scanner, but it is much more evolved scanner. It targets regeneration. So it jump-starts regenerative processes in the human body, and it is capable of supporting and maintaining those processes to the extent that the body can actually regenerate tissues. Not completely organs yet, but it can regenerate tissues in many situations when conventional medicine is hopeless.
Really? So like maybe a finger has been amputated?
Fingers, yeah, definitely, but more like you're looking at, say, body developing scarring. Let's say you had a heart attack. Heart attack always results in a scar tissue,
right.
Because the body loses blood supply, and scar tissue is a compromise of the body. So scar is not the tissue as it should be, but it is something that the body puts on a place of a normal tissue just to keep functioning. Because the body is not concerned with the structure, the body is concerned with function. So it is basically paying attention to keep working, whatever structure supports the function.
Okay.
in order to regenerate the original tissue, the body needs a lot of energy and needs right programs, which we, as we age, we lose. They say embryo can actually grow a finger, but when we are adults, and even children, we lose that ability. Salamander can grow a leg. We can't. Why not? It's
right.
The programs are there. It's there, but they're locked. So Kossmotic, to a certain extent, can unlock those programs and give the body enough information and energy in order to run those programs and regenerate a normal tissue on the place where normally body would form a scar. So let's say after a heart attack, you would have a normal heart muscle instead of a scar. Easier with the internal organs, like a liver, heart, a stomach, let's say stomach ulcer, you can actually see it with fiber optics, where on the place of stomach ulcer, there is no scar. So it's just nice stomach lining. It's more difficult with the skin, believe it or not. So, but it is still possible. So this technology is next step towards the Star Trek healing device. That's how we think.
The Star Trek healing device.
Yeah, that's how we think of it.
Now, it sounds like it would have some practical applications for cancer treatment.
We do, however, as you're probably well aware, cancer is an industry.
Sure.
And being an industry, it is well regulated. So we can only work with people who come to us and consciously choose a certain way of dealing with their problem. So lots of people just choose a natural way, alternative way, and they are searching for answers, looking for answers. Of course, with even technologies that we use, and scanner and Kossmotic is not the only technology that we utilize in our practices, they cannot give you all the answers. And technologies are technologies. High-tech energy healing is something that I'm an expert in, and I run for many years. And yet, even our high-tech gadgets cannot provide you with answers when cancer is concerned, because cancer, by nature of the thing, is the major breakdown in systemic communication. So what happens with the cancer, as you probably know, the body just does not see the growing tissue. We all grow little cancers in our bodies many times a year, maybe sometimes once a day. However, this growth is always controlled by the general regulation and management system of the body. The body is computerized. Yeah. So when the communication is running correctly and our lines of communication are open, then the body detects that growth on an early stage and suppresses it. However, when the lines are broken, that's when happens that the body does not see the developing tissue until it is too late. And cancer is a young, and they're healthy, normal, young cells. They're just very aggressive. And they live for self-support. It's almost like a game in the city.
Right.
So it just attracts energy, grabs energy, any energy it can reach. And because of that energy, it just keeps growing. The body does not see it until it starts producing symptoms, and when symptoms, it's pretty late at that stage to suppress, so it's very difficult to do. We try to support the body to start seeing the growing tissue, and when the body is aware, and it's all about awareness, so when the body becomes aware, then it can do something about it. So we utilize technology that do two basically things, that give the body awareness, so they serve as a mirror for the body. You know, when you look in the mirror and you don't like something, you will correct it. So the body does exactly the same thing. So it looks at itself, at its energetic signature, energetic portrait, and when it does not like something, which like a growing tissue, then it decides to do something about it. Sometimes it doesn't have energy to do that. Then we have a different technology to supply the body with that energy, with coherent energy, structured energy, harmonized energy. And when the body has that energy, then it can deal with the problem. However, you need to support the workings of high-tech energy healing gadgets with the lifestyle choices, with correct nutrition, with antioxidants. Well, you know that. You know that cancer treatment always is systemic. So it affects all sides of personal life, and physical as well as mental, spiritual, and emotional.
Yeah, you know, that's a good point, that a successful cancer treatment needs to be systemic. Isn't that where the conventional treatments protocol really falls flat? Because they don't treat it systemically, they treat the tumor, and as long as they shrink the tumor or cut out the tumor, they say that it's a success, without looking at all of the other variables that have to do with the cancer.
Definitely that, but I would also say, would dare to say, that conventional medical approach is flawed by its very principle, its very core. The conventional medical approach, not just to the cancer, but to almost all diseases and disorders in the human body, it's a war on disease. So it is when you're fighting the disease which has been identified. So you select the enemy, you gave the enemy a name, you identified it, you name the disease, you have a diagnosis, and then you have the prescribed sequence of actions to deal with that enemy. See, disease is not an enemy. By very nature of the disease, if we look into the functioning of the body as a system, the disease is an adaptive reaction of the body to some change in the outside world. So the body is trying to adapt to something. Let's say flu virus. Flu has all of these unpleasant symptoms, but is it bad? Well, the body is trying to adapt to a flu virus through developing a fever and suppress the growth of the virus by developing a fever. By very nature of it, if we wouldn't have a fever, the virus would spread all over and kill us.
So the fever is a good thing?
Fever is a good thing. So fever and the running nose and the cough, it's all attempts of the body to clear itself, to have a detox, to fight the virus and develop the immune response to the virus. So it is an adaptive reaction response of the body. And so are all the other diseases. Well, except for the cancer. Cancer is not an adaptive reaction. It's more, as we already said, disease of miscommunication. But most of the other diseases, they are diseases of adaptation. So adaptation fails. Adaptation tries to come up back. And then we have chronic diseases and relapses of chronic diseases because the body attempts to run the cycle of adaptation again and again and finish it. Because any adaptive reaction is a program. So it starts from zero, had to go through the crisis. Remember the old doctors used to say, the crisis has passed. And it is. The crisis is the top of the cycle. So it has to pass through the crisis, and then you're on a regeneration cycle, then you're in recovery, you come back to the zero, and the system actually gets in to a different state of evolution. It evolved, it adapted, it restructured itself. So it's a zero again, but it is already different zero. So it's like a spiral. The body always adapts to something. By the nature of it, the cycle of adaptation needs to be finalized. If it's not finalized, the program will be linger in the system forever, unless it has a chance to finish itself. It's a program. The program needs to run. Disease needs to live its life through. That's how we call it. So fighting the disease, stopping the program, is not going to solve the problem. Yes, antibiotics can suppress the symptoms, but the program is not finished. So it will be sitting in the body unless some circumstances develop and it will flare up again because disease has to live its life through. So by the nature of the conventional approach, fighting the disease, trying to stop it, it's not going to help the body. What's going to help if we help the body to run the cycle, to make it as fast as possible and as easy for the body as possible, and let the body finish the disease. And that's the basis of the scanner therapy, cosmetic therapy, and all the holistic medical technologies that we actually work with. With the cancer, same thing. The body needs to deal with the problem on its own. It needs to be aware. If the body is not aware of the growing tissue, if the communication is broken, burning the cancer out of the body is not going to help. Because if it's burned in one place, it will come up somewhere else.
Because the communication hasn't been fixed. Of course. And you probably met many cancer survivors or sufferers who had cancer several times. Treated conventionally, it will come up somewhere else because it is a systemic thing. Unless you restore the systemic communication, unless you make the body coherent,
And cancer is one of the most incoherent diseases in the human body, or conditions, I would say, conditions. It's not going to help. So the approach that conventional medicine has towards cancer and other diseases, to my opinion, is flawed in its very principle.
So Dr. Irina, what can we do to restore the communications in these cells? You mentioned that cancer is a result of a miscommunication in the cells.
Or broken lines of communication.
How can we restore that?
Well, that is a systemic approach. Consider human being as a multi-layered system that is not just physical. It is energetic, and it's in unity of emotions, in unity of thoughts, as well as our spirit. So we have the physical layer, we have the energetic layer, and then we have the informational matrix. So the core of our being is an informational matrix. Information dictates how energy is directed. So energy doesn't just run chaotic in the human body. It is a structured system. What directs information? Energy, informational matrix. So when informational matrix is distorted, then the computer doesn't work. When the programs are corrupted, the computer doesn't work. So the first thing to do is to actually restore the informational matrix, then help the energy run the correct way, and the energetic system, energetic structure will affect the physical. So the physical body is the last and the least of our concerns, actually. The major is the informational matrix, is the core. And here we actually have where religion meets science, because our informational core is our spirit. It's our system of beliefs. It's our understanding of who we are in this world, acceptance of our place in this world, and understanding of what we're supposed to do. Those who actually know exactly who they are and what they are here for and what they do, they're happy people because they have a program. They know what to do. If we do not have that core set, then we are always unsettled. Then we are always in search, and it ends up in chronic stress. And chronic stress is our killer, because the chronic stress is what corrupts your programs. When you're under condition of chronic stress, everything goes to whack. And you know, chronic stress has so many faces. And if you scratch almost any chronic disorder that humankind has, in the core of it, in the bottom of it, will be chronic stress. And chronic stress mostly comes from the deep core. It comes from person not having good self-esteem, person being hopeless, helpless, worthless victim of the circumstances. And when you have that victim mentality, and you would not believe how many people have that victim mentality. We mask it, but almost all of us have it to one or another degree. So you have to deal with that. Unless you deal with that, you cannot get out of chronic stress in our very hectic and very demanding environment.
On the way over here today, it just makes me think of a story. We were driving over here from Toronto, and behind us was this guy that was he was so mad because he couldn't get around us and the other cars, and he was literally throwing his arms up in the air and making obscene gestures and screaming. I mean, I could see him in my mirror. Literally, he was the only one in his car, but he was yelling in his car. And you know, you look
obviously it's his problem.
Right.
When he does not have the balance that we all need to find. And it is difficult to find. But when you have cancer, that's the first thing you need to do. You need to find your place in this world, and you have to get rid of the victim mentality. And you have to grow your self-esteem. Cancer is not an enemy. Cancer is actually a process. And lots of our clients who successfully overcame cancer, and well, as we say now, get into the remission process for many years.
Yeah.
But you can say cure, so
right,
it's a remission. They have the attitude towards cancer like it is a challenge. It's not a death sentence that is written over their forehead.
Right.
It is a challenge that they face, and they need to learn something. They need to overcome it. And those who did overcome it usually tell us, and that's actually very common, that cancer was my best teacher. Because in dealing with cancer, I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about the world. I learned so much about people. I changed the attitude. And now I'm a much happier person than I was before I got cancer.
Yeah.
And some of them even say, I am cancering. Those who are dealing with cancer don't look at it as I have cancer. They're saying I am cancering. So it's a process. It's a learning curve for them. And those who have that attitude, those are the ones who actually beat cancer. And if you still have a victim mentality, even if you burn cancer out of your body, it will come up somewhere else. So you need to fix your informational matrix first. And you can do it, only you can do it. Only a person can, no one can do it for you. It's not something that is applied from the outside. Only you can grow your self-esteem. Only you can find your place in the world. Your informational matrix, it's completely and totally depends on you and you only. On top of that, of course, you apply energetic technologies that give you energy to do things, give your body energy to run the programs, give you enough bioenergy, structured, coherent bioenergy, which we usually supply with low-level lasers of different types. But that is a technology that, by definition, is coherent. So it's a coherent light that is given to the body, so the body can, the cells can drink that light, can actually collect and accumulate ATP, which is the energy molecule of the cell, in order to fight cancer, in order to do many other things in the body. So we supply the body with energy, we direct that energy correctly, we clean the blockages of energy, that way we structure the energy system of the body. And when that is done, we don't have to deal with the physical cancer, because the body does it on its own. It actually starts seeing it and start doing something with it, doing something about it. So if you ask me, even though I do work with energy healing technologies and high-tech equipment, but when you are dealing with cancer, the first thing to do is to deal with your informational matrix and your very, very core.
So once you once you get the informational matrix corrected, once you get the energy that the body needs, then you really, the body knows what to do with the cancer at that point. So you're not treating
because
cancer.
Because it is aware. It sees it.
So in other words, you're not treating cancer, you're providing the body with what it needs to be healthy.
Absolutely.
Right.
As with many other diseases and disorders, we help the body to help itself. And that's what we do. We do not fight disease. We don't even have to identify the disease. See, the diagnosis is only needed in conventional medicine, where you need to know the enemy. We don't, because we don't view disease as an enemy. All we need to do is to make the body stronger, make the body more aware, make the body happier, make the body have more energy.
And that's what these machines will help do.
And that's what these machines are all about.
I see.
They are mirrors for the body, and they are energy donors.
So contrast fear versus fear and stress against happiness and joy and laughter as far as the body's response.
Exactly right. See, we create heaven and hell for ourselves on this earth. And love is our heaven, and vibrations of unconditional love are the most healing vibrations you can have. So the more unconditional love you experience and you have in you, the more coherent your system is going to be. And the opposite to love is not hate, as most people think, it's fear. So fear is your hell on earth. So fear destroys communication in the body. Fear destroys your personality. And when it starts ruling your life, that's where you expose yourself to the potential dangers of developing cancer, as well as many other disorders. Some people will develop cancer, and some people will develop MS, and some other people will develop chronic arthritis, different manifestation. But in the core, in the root of it, it's usually always the same thing.
So then that makes me question, when someone is diagnosed with cancer and their doctor says, you know, you got terminal cancer, you're going to die, they just scared them. They just implanted fear into their whole being, right?
Absolutely. And that's what we try to explain to our community of home healers, that no matter what kind of diagnosis they're going to give you, what kind of label you're going to have, it's never a death sentence. It's a challenge. Yes, sure, cancer is a challenge. Arthritis is a challenge.
But it's not a death sentence.
It's not a death sentence. It's something to be aware of, something to deal with, but definitely not to put yourself in the situation when you live in constant fear.
So what would your advice be to a person that's been recently diagnosed with cancer, and they've gone to their oncologist, and the oncologist said, you do chemo and radiation, and you're going to die anyway, but this will give you a few more months.
Right.
What's your advice to somebody that's got a doctor like that?
Well, you know, I cannot say don't go that route, right? Sure. Because cancer is an industry. But if it would be my friend, I would say, well, that's a wake-up call for you. It's not a death sentence, it's a wake-up call. Look what is not going correctly in your life. Look at yourself, look at your belief system, look at your core, and see how much fear you have in your life, how much love do you have in your life. Start with that. But now that you know that you have that challenge, let's deal with the challenge. First of all, your body needs energy. So the body needs correct nutrition and live food, of course, not that. So change what you eat. We are what we eat.
Right.
So change your lifestyle. Get some exercise, get outside, get the normal bioenergy. We're all so depleted of bioenergy because we do not walk barefoot on the grass. We do not sit under the tree. We do not hug the trees. We do not swim in the ocean enough. We do not sit in the sunshine enough. We are not getting the electrons that we're supposed to get from the environment. As our ancestors were supplementing the energy that they were using for different life processes, they were supplementing it from the environment. We don't do that. And because of that, our biological battery is running really low. So get your biological battery charged. So start doing the right things. So start thinking about what you are putting in your body. Every time you put something in your body or expose yourself to something, ask yourself one question. Is it going to be giving me energy or taking it out? Is it going to give me energy or is it going to take it out? In order to digest the food that we have in the supermarket, which is genetically modified, we waste so much energy and we're not supplementing it. So yes, organic food is more expensive, but in the end of the day, you're exposing yourself to huge dangers. First of all, you're not getting anything out of it. It's wax. And second of all, you're exposing yourself to GMOs, and which is actually a really dangerous thing, and many other chemicals. So that's one thing. And then nature provided us with the sources of a coherent energy. And it does and did provide us with the help when our system experiences the difficulties and it needs help. And help comes from other systems which is similar to us in complexity of organization. And that could be our support system as our friends and family and our loved ones. Or it can be animals. It can be your pets. Just think about yourself when you come home all stressed out and tired at the end of the day, and your dog runs to you and puts its head on your lap and looks at you. You're getting this energy of love, unconditional love from them. That's the most coherent energy that charges you up, and your headache disappears at that time. There are studies done that actually show blood pressure going down 10, 20 millimeters just from petting your cat. It's that help that they give us, and we communicate with other systems that help us become more coherent, help us become more structured. And when we are coherent and structured, then communication goes freely, then we are open, we become self-transparent, And when we become self-transparent, then cancer has no place to live. So I would say to people who were diagnosed with cancer just now, open yourself up to the world. So get organic stuff, get stuff that gives you energy, and start opening yourself to communication with other systems on different levels, not just on a physical level, but on an emotional level. Open your heart. Your heart is your compass. Your heart is something that connects you to others, not your mind. Your mind is actually an enemy sometimes. So calm down your mind and open your heart and start loving more. That would be the first thing. And then, of course, get the technologies, because without the technologies, it all can be done, but it will be a long process. So get the lasers, get the scanners, get the cosmetics, and start feeding yourself and cleaning your programs. That's what I would tell to my friend.
Okay. And when you mentioned energy, you say it's coherent. What exactly do you mean by coherent energy?
Coherence is an interesting notion. Coherence is a very fragile balance between total chaos and perfect order. Let's say perfect order, marching soldiers on a bridge. You know how marching soldiers on the bridge can break the bridge if they got into resonance?
Or a cat walking.
Yes, it's a perfect order.
Right.
Chaos, on the other hand, chaos. There is no structure in the chaos. So coherence is a balance in between. Neither is good enough. And when people ask me, well, explain me what coherence is, I usually give an example of an orchestra. Let's say every instrument in an orchestra is an individual. It has its individual frequencies, and it plays its own part, which is different for every instrument. So they're all individuals, they're all different, and yet when they all listen to each other and work in harmony and synergy, then you have a symphony. If one of the instruments fall out of the general harmony, it becomes a cacophony instead of symphony. So when everyone listens to each other and works in harmony, that's a state of coherence. You have individual units with individual vibrations and frequencies, all communicating and listening to each other and supplementing, complementing each other for the common goal. So you have a system working for the common goal, but the system comprises of different elements which are individual. So that's coherence. Okay. And our body is the same way. It has the organs and tissues. Each cell in the body has different vibrations, has different tune, and different role. So our orchestra of our body needs to play the symphony of life. And when it does play the symphony, that's a state of coherence.
Great explanation. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So then it makes even less sense, the conventional model for treating cancer, when we have a diseased organ and we cut it out.
You said it.
Right? Because then there's no coherence.
You're taking an instrument out of the orchestra. It still can play symphony, but it will be much less beautiful. And of course, when you supplement it with something else, then it's a different vibrations, different frequencies. We don't know what's going to happen. And sometimes the body just doesn't take it.
Yeah. Yeah, and so again, I mean, I think we go back to the same old adage with these conventional treatments that we're really treating the wrong thing. You know, we're treating the symptom. Like, let's say somebody has a big tumor.
Yep.
It's a symptom of something else in the body.
Absolutely.
And
it's
so
a wake-up call.
It's a wake-up call, right? And it's a symptom that something needs to be fixed, right?
Yes.
But we can't, it doesn't make sense that we could ever cure that with toxic poisons or with pills.
Well, we can't.
We're not, because we don't have cancer because we're deficient in poison or pills, right?
Absolutely. We have cancer because our systemic communication is broken. And we cannot restore systemic communication by burning something out or removing something.
Right.
You only can do it by adding something.
Yeah.
Making the body aware.
Why do you think that we have had such a large increase over the last couple of decades in childhood cancers?
Well, I contribute that to, obviously, cancer, as we already said, is the most incoherent disease and disorder of the body. So, incoherency of the system, we all born coherent, harmonious, structured, and happy. And then something happens. Then your body is introduced to vaccinations, to heavy metals, genetically modified food, to the formula, milk from the beginning, to dysbiosis in the child's intestines, and immune system suppressants in various forms. When your immune system is not fighting and not identifying the cancer cells, then it's not going to work. Then it's somewhere in the body the cancer is going to grow. Immune system function is not to only identify the viruses and bacteria, it's also to identify cancer cells. So immune system is a major part of our system of adaptation. So when immune system is compromised from the childhood, and it is when you are start pumping the vaccines to the newborns, your immune system is going to be compromised.
It's kind of the opposite of what they tell us vaccines are going to do.
Yep. It is. But think logically.
Right.
It just makes sense.
Yeah.
I know, of course, there are dangers out there and different infections and could be life-threatening infections. But is that danger outweighs the dangers of the vaccines? I don't know. It's individual choice parents have to make. But, yeah, I did vaccinate my child when Dennis was a child because I didn't know any better. And now I think if I knew then what I know now, I would never, ever, ever do that. Because I contribute his Tourette's to actually one of vaccinations. I could even trace it chronologically. So I would never do that again. And my grandchildren are not going to be vaccinated. No way.
And we're a lot alike. We vaccinated our first two children because we didn't know any better. Our last two, our youngest, have never been vaccinated. So you react, you act on the knowledge that you've been given, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so if somebody out there has never heard about the dangers of vaccines, it's not their fault at this point.
Of course not.
We're just trying to educate them that.
Of course not.
Right.
But when the government starts pushing it on you, then I object.
Right. Like what's going on in California.
Yes.
I object heavily to that as well.
Yes.
Especially in light of the fact that vaccines, there's not ever been a single vaccine that's been ever tested for carcinogenicity.
Exactly.
So how can they tell us they're safe and effective?
Exactly.
If they've never been tested if they cause cancer.
But again, logically, vaccines would attack your immune system goes in overdrive, then it starts overreacting to the things in the environment that normally would be just normal, and we have the explosion of allergies. Like how many children do you know that do not have allergies?
Right. Everybody has allergies now.
Everybody has allergies to everything. Starting from peanuts to pollens to air or to sunlight. Well, how strange is that? Allergy to sunlight.
Right.
So when you have that, you cannot expect your system to function correctly and the immune system to actually identify the dangers and the cancer cells in the body. So yes, children actually are stronger. The programs are still running pretty good. But as we accumulate what we call the energy cysts with age, and energy cysts is our unfinished programs, all those suppressed by antibiotics or something else, which the body never had a chance to finish. So it attracts the body energy resources. And with age, we accumulate the cysts everywhere. It breaks the communication down. It creates blockages on the energy flow. And when you have blockages in information and energy flow, that's setting a stage for cancer in the future. That's my opinion.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing your opinions today. This has been great information. I know that the people watching have been enlightened by what you shared, so thank you so much for your time today.
You're very welcome.
Awesome.